Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in today. I am Jewel Diamond Taylor, your host of my series called Inner Views. That's right, getting on the inside, understanding what makes people tick, what drives them, what they find is their purpose, what is their background, what are the things and hurdles they've overcome, successes they've achieved. And I'm excited today to have a reunion with this brother that has had me on his radio show a couple of times. And I'm so grateful that we are still connected. And some of you heard him speak at one of my earlier Women on the Grow conferences. Would you help me welcome Brother Wes Hall? How you doing, brother?
Amazing, amazing, blessed and highly favored. How are you, Jewel?
Oh, I'm great. I'm great. In spite of all of the things that are happening, the disruption of our lives, the
Yes.
concerns, the uncertainty, the pressures, I still want to bring forth a positive frequency. I want to bring forth
Yes.
inspiration. And I thought of you. But first of all, Wes, we've sat side by side in the studio on radio. I've
Yes.
sat at your feet and listened to you speak. But I want
Yes.
to get to know, who is Wes Hall?
The mystery man. The
The
mystery
mystery man.
man. Jewel,
Yes.
that's the mystery man. Sister, that's one of the things about when you are a insatiable worker. I recall a reporter asked Kobe Bryant, well, tell us about your friends. And Kobe Bryant had the most unexpected answer. He said, I don't have any friends. It was like, I work all the time on my game. Everything is about my work, right? And everything revolves around my mission. So I think, we saw that in Michael Jordan. You see it in a lot of the people that are totally sold out on what they do for a living. I'm sure you can relate to that in terms of how much you've read and worked on your career. So to know Wes Hall is to know an insatiable worker, reader. I mean, someone who has 10 projects going
Oh,
on all at the same time, right?
but
And
I think that's more characteristic of males.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think men tend to be lone wolves.
yeah,
And as a woman, I know that many of us, not all of us, but many of us strive to have a balance, to have friendships. And friendship isn't always easy.
yeah.
It could be very dangerous. You can be very vulnerable. And so the first question I want to ask you, Wes, is where were you born?
Yeah, I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I was
I've
born in
been there many
Cleveland.
times.
Yeah, but I only stayed till like I was 5 years old, so I know absolutely nothing about Cleveland, with the exception of have visited over the course of time. And so my family moved to Iowa.
Mm,
So I grew up actually in the Midwest, in Des Moines, Iowa. Went to school there, um, and so in high school and all that in Des Moines. And then I traveled around the country doing radio. So Norfolk, Virginia, 103 Jams out there, down in Windsor, North Carolina. Um, Traveled out to San Francisco, 1310 KDIA out in San Francisco market. And so I kind of lived my life on the road, moved out to Atlanta for a while. So Des Moines growing up, and then kind of traveling the country, and now ultimately here in Los Angeles.
here in Los Angeles. Wow, I
Yeah.
love that. And were there siblings in your family?
Oh yeah, we were the Brady Bunch. We had
Well, what is your
we,
birth order?
well, I'm the second, but here's where I become the first,
Oh,
because my brother was 3 years older than me, and me and my siblings, and he kind of like disowned us. He was too old and too popular for us,
okay.
the rest of the kids, right? And so we had my brother 3 years older, I was under him, and then we had stair step.
Mm,
My two sisters were 1 year, after one another, and then two more siblings. So I had three brothers and three sisters in all.
wow, wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. I've always envied that,
Uh-huh.
having a lot of siblings. What
Yeah.
was your childhood like, Wes?
Oh, tumultuous. It was turbulent. It was absolutely, when you think about the work I'm doing, sometimes you get kind of born into what you ultimately do for a
Mm-hmm.
living. So, My dad was an alcoholic. He had an alcoholic challenge when we were growing up, which made him fluctuate between sanity and insanity on
Mm-hmm.
any particular day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mom was a very religious woman, right? I had a praying mama. When you talk about a praying mama, my mother was the type of mother that would post things on the walls. It'd be different articles about different things
Oh.
that we should avoid as children, right? If it was marijuana, you would see these different postings. Did you read the posting? Yes, mother. Yes,
But
mother.
what were you like? Were you an extrovert? Were you into sports? Were you talkative? Were you quiet? What were
Yeah,
you? How would you describe yourself as a child?
yeah,
Curious,
yeah, 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 yeah. I'm curious,
troublemaker.
troublemaker, all of the above.
Okay.
But I was led though, Jewel. I was blessed to be led to this church by my Aunt Bertha. And
Ah,
if you stayed the night with Aunt Bertha, you're going to church on
oh,
Sunday.
all
Yeah,
right.
that's how Bertha did it. You were going to church. And I ended up going to church and really found God at about 14 years old.
Hmm.
And I told my parents one day, to their ultimate disbelief, I said, God adopted me. I walked
Oh,
into the,
I love that.
I, I was
I love
14.
that.
I was
Well,
14.
I think that's so beautiful that you had that early foundation.
Yes, yes.
What would you tell your younger self now that you have been through many life passages, you have a different understanding of life? What would you tell your younger self?
Um, be be more aware of your relationships.
Mm,
Yeah, because as I grew up through an era, being a radio personality, or being a street DJ before I was
mhm,
a radio personality, right?
mhm,
So that entailed a lot of women. There were a lot of women all the time.
mhm,
There were women, women, women. It came with the territory in terms of radio broadcasting and DJing. And what you find out over the course of time, and anyone listening, especially for my younger men, is you have to be very careful in your relationships,
mm,
very careful and very selective, because you could be dating a very popular person, a very popular woman, right? And she could be the lead of whatever capacity. And whatever happens in that relationship can impact you in your business. You
okay.
know, when you look at Les and Gladys is a perfect example, right? There's different examples, with Les being my mentor, and having conversations with him, just in challenges that he had going through that breakup was a challenge. So over the course of my life, I've noticed that you have to be very careful. There's certain things that you don't even want to release about your relationship. People would want to know, well, are you married? Are you in a relationship? So I just say, no, I'm single. I'm handling my business. It's an industry thing too. You have
Mhm.
to be so to my younger self, I would just uh, be careful and be
Mhm.
aware of those
That
outcomes.
that leads me to my next question. What
Yeah.
is it that most people don't know about you? I mean, you are a public figure, but what is something that people will be surprised? Like, really, I never thought of Wes that you love bunny rabbits.
Yeah, I love good smelling body wash. Right,
Okay,
right.
all right.
By body wash, Old Spice came up about a month ago with this new one. They've got called it's got shea butter in it. Well,
Okay,
but prior
good
to
for
that,
your skin. That's
it's
good for
good
your
for your skin, right? So prior to that, though, I might have to use Caress because I love the way it smells.
I love
Right,
it.
right.
Okay.
And so somebody make
So
because
now we know what to get you for Christmas
no, no, no. I don't
or
do
your birthday.
Christmas. I don't
Oh,
do
you don't.
birthdays.
Okay, all
Right,
right.
so, right, right. But if someone so chose,
All
absolutely.
right. What was a defining moment in your life, a life-changing moment when the
Right.
sky opened up and yeah,
And
yeah,
there was a big and the big epiphany.
yeah. Or it was a defining moment. You changed something. You moved. You changed careers. What
Yeah.
was? fine. And we usually have several, but what's the first one that comes to mind, Wes?
Well, the biggest one that comes to mind is when I moved here to LA.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was in my spirit. As there's some things that hit your spirit and these things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and everyone else around you cannot figure out why you're doing something. It makes
Yeah,
absolutely no sense. You're
yeah,
right.
it's like Noah building the ark.
Right, precisely. Can you imagine the ridicule that Noah
Yes,
went through in building
I
that
know,
ark?
I know. So what
Think
was that? What happened? What was that moment?
Well, I had come to LA prior to for my birthday in February. They have the All-Star game, and
Mm-hmm.
there was an All-Star game here in Los Angeles, and I went back to Des Moines, and it was in my spirit. It's like you're supposed to be in LA, and I
Okay.
mean I sold all of my furniture, everything from my condo, and people were like, "What are you doing?"
Oh, okay.
My pastor was like, "You're tenured here. Everyone knows you. When you leave to go to LA, you may have to come back and fight for what you already have."
Mm. Are
And
you glad that you made that move?
it was the only move. It was the ordained move.
Mm.
Everything that happened once I hit LA in the soil of LA was ordained, right? I
Amen.
mean, and when I look at even now being in LAUSD 10 years later, I'm at the district level, contracted with the district, second largest district in the country. The work that we've done here in Los Angeles, everything has been fated. And so it was an ordained call, and
Mm.
I answered it, and it changed my life completely.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Tell me a book that you are reading now. And if you're like me, you're probably reading two or three or four at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. I've got right now, there's because of the work that I'm doing in terms of what our young men of color, the new Jim Crow that I've been reading. A lot of the work I'm going back actually and covering some subject matter, the miseducation
Okay.
of Black boys. But just in terms of books that I'm reading, uh, there's a book that deals with anxiety, and
Okay.
it's called The War of Art, and
Okay.
it's an interesting subject matter, um, that just deals with if you're trying to really get rid of anxiety because you're doing so many projects. The
Mhm.
War of Art is a definite
In other words, art is like a therapy, right?
well, this one deals with a whole different subject matter, Jewel. It deals with what they call resistance.
Mhm.
Okay, and anxiety. They're actually saying that it's a warfare that you're experiencing from, for the lack of a better phrase, the dark side, the enemy.
Okay.
Okay,
Yes.
so and when you sit in front of your computer to write a book, for instance, right? Then you feel all this anxiety. They're saying that that's resistance that's trying to keep you from finishing that project.
Uh-huh.
And so you
Which
have
leads
to,
to procrastination.
okay, now you're on it, which leads
Yeah.
to procrastination, right?
Yeah.
And then you'll walk away from it because you
Yeah.
don't like the feeling of that resistance.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those of us who are highly accomplished, we learn how to work through the resistance,
Very
right?
good. I like
We
that.
yeah, we learn how to we experience the resistance, but our why is so overwhelming that
That's
we
it.
walk through the resistance. And here's the key: when you're in the thing that you're supposed to do, the resistance can't get through that thing.
You better
If you're
say.
if you're supposed to write that book, the resistance will circle you, but it can't get through that piece that you're
I love
supposed to complete. You see what I mean?
I love that. And it's good when you can recognize the pattern. You know the resistance is going to come. You're not surprised. You're not caught off guard. You're like, okay, well, I knew
Yes,
that was coming. But
yes,
guess, like you said,
yes,
the why is
yes,
so powerful,
yes.
wonderful. Tell me, Wes, a movie that had an impact on your life. Was there a movie that just had a stamp on your spirit, on your soul, and spoke to you?
Yeah, well, I'm a sci-fi person, so
Oh,
I'm
really? You're sci-fi.
I'm sci-fi. So Matrix. So I'm a
Okay.
Matrix person, and
Okay.
I don't really watch movies for what the actual is happening on the screen as much as I look for what the writer of the
Yes,
movie intended in terms of capturing it, right? So
yes.
if I'm watching the Book of Eli, for instance,
I love that movie.
with me too, with Denzel Washington, right?
Zell. Yeah.
I'm looking at that movie to see how did the writer understand the promise that God gave to Eli and capture it in a way that they walked it out. Somebody had to know that there was a part where Denzel's walking or he's sleeping, and all of a sudden he's awakened out of his sleep, right?
Yes.
And he
Yes.
gets up immediately and grabs his stuff because at the same time he's awakened, his enemies are pulling out of a garage coming to
Yeah.
get him. Okay.
Yes.
And then so there's certain movies that if you look inside of them, like The Force Being With You by the Star Trek, right?
Bruce.
John Lucas,
Yeah.
this universal force conversation that they're trying to capture, the connectedness of human beings. Here's an easy way to understand connection. If you understand the pandemic, one thing you will understand is that something can happen in China that can affect you here in America.
Hmm.
For every person who hates other people, racist or otherwise, if you're in an airplane, there's one thing you should understand. I'm breathing your air and you're breathing mine. We are
Yes.
one. We are all connected, and
And
what affects one of us affects us all.
wow, that is so true. I'm with you on that. And I want to switch topics a little bit
Okay.
because I love it when I get to talk to my male peers
Hmm.
and they can help the women that
Hmm.
I interact with and women
Hmm.
I counsel, the women I coach, the women
Hmm.
who cry on my shoulders, the
Yes.
women that have all these questions.
Yes,
What
Joel.
is it that women need to understand? And I know it's a lot, but just what comes up? What's one point that you would say women need to understand this about men, the way you're wired? And I
Right.
know that's a broad statement, but
Yes.
still, I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
Tell me something that we need to get more clearer understanding and stop wrestling with it and
Yeah.
accept this truth.
Okay. Well, the dynamic of the shift that has occurred right now um, brings a challenge for men and women
Yeah.
in terms of just the time frame we live in, right?
Yes.
Because what happens is that Mama created a woman who would never go through what Mama went through, right? So Mama created this independent woman, and at the same time, and I'm generalizing, at the same time, Mama sheltered a boy who came up as a man who'd been sheltered. So the dynamics have shifted with
Mm,
in terms of the responsibility of the woman and who she is right now, to where this man in many times is an underachiever. And I'm generalizing, I'm not saying all men. So now the woman has taken on many of the responsibilities that ultimately is what the man would do. I'm talking about in the Black culture particularly.
yes.
So let me help you. Let me bring it home for the women that are listening. I think T.D. Jakes may have summed it up and gave a great illustration when he said two things. A woman doesn't want affection, she needs affection. A man doesn't want respect, he needs respect. And so
Mm.
there's an illustration about a car. You don't put gasoline in your car because you like gasoline. You put gasoline in your
Because it
car,
needs it.
it needs gasoline. So therefore, if a woman really wants to master, or a man wants to master relationships, those variables, you cannot breach them. In other words, if you leave your woman too long without affection, you might see her arguing in other ways or doing other things or
Right.
separating, or the roast beef doesn't get cooked, right?
Right. It is burned.
Right, but it gets burned because you're not giving her the affection. If
Yes.
you're not respecting your man, if
Mhm.
if he's third or fourth on your list, say for instance,
Mm.
you've got children, so your children are first. You've got your parents, so your parents are second. You got your girls, because your girls are third. You
And
got
you
a
got
dog.
church.
You
And you
got a
got
church,
church.
right? Church, and your church is fourth. You got a dog, and your dog is fifth. And then somewhere down the line is
Yeah.
your man. you
Well,
know,
you're teaching, and what I would like for you to give me an example of what does respect look like? Where do you see that women are disrespecting and they
Yeah.
don't even realize that
Yeah.
that is the language that you are speaking?
Yeah.
How do we do that? How do we disrespect? Give me
Yeah.
a couple of examples.
Yeah. A lot of times a woman will there's no filter. Whatever she thinks, she says, right?
Okay.
And so she measures herself against that man, and certain things that she says to him. When she looks, if a woman looks at respect, she can think about her dad or whatever male. She has to ask herself a critical question: what male do you respect? And then what do you afford him in alignment with that respect? Now, a lot of times they'll come back and they'll talk about their jobs because I get money from my job, my
Mhm.
dad because he's worthy of respect. They'll have these analogies that they use, but then then you ask them, then why doesn't your man deserve that?
Yeah.
Well, with Joel, what it comes down to is, for many women in 2020, the man is expendable. We live in what I
Yeah.
call we live in what I call the era of next. This is
You
the
are.
era of
You
this.
know what? I'm gonna slap you. I'm gonna
This is the
slap you.
this is the era of next.
I'm
It's
gonna
called
slap you. Wes.
Jewel. It's called next.
Yes.
Next.
It's like
Next.
people, they just give up so quickly,
Yes.
and they
Yeah.
feel like, well, I've got options. And
Yeah.
like you said, if
Right.
a woman becomes very independent,
Yeah.
self-sufficient, can
Yeah.
buy her own house, buy her
Yeah.
own car,
Right.
buy her own diamond ring,
Yes.
uh, and don't, what do I need a man for? What
Right.
do I need? He's
Yeah.
disposable.
It's transactional.
There
Everything
you
is
go.
transactional now. So if he does this, I'll do that. I've got a guy with me who takes care of this part of what I
This
need.
part. Yeah,
This
yeah,
part,
yeah.
this part,
Yeah.
and that's how she sees him. He takes care of this part. And let me take it easy on the ladies too, because unfortunately, a lot of times we are living in times where men have not reached their apex or their pinnacle, or they're not even striving to do so. A
Mhm.
lot of the things they're dependent upon is the woman to take care of things in certain capacities because that's what he's used to. And
Yes.
so, and we have to help our single moms not create boys who end up being dependent all their lives. We have to say to single moms, listen, that child is like a diamond, and his good stuff only comes out under pressure. The
Come on.
man, the man that he is supposed to become only comes out under pressure. So you can't be selfish, mom, because the only man that stays around you is your son. You can't be selfish and make him be whatever you need in terms of that masculinity. So many single moms. I'm in education, so I deal with a lot of parent training, and
Yes.
so many single moms are nurturing that boy in that space, and what they don't realize is the element of masculinity that is housed in that boy,
Mm-hmm.
because he starts to try to dominate the mom after a while. He's almost like her man. She'll give him special places in the house. She'll do things for him all the way up to the years where he's supposed to learn how to be a man. He's supposed to take hard knocks, supposed to have bruises, supposed to learn what defeat is, so he can overcome those things. If he's
And I
in a
think a lot of young boys,
Mhm,
men,
mhm,
and women,
mhm.
what's missing is we don't have rites of passage.
Ah,
We have systems in place
yes,
to
sister.
usher them into a new season. And let me say,
Yep,
it's not just the single moms, it's
yep.
the married mothers too.
That's true too.
I'm a mother
That's
of a
true.
son, and I
Yep,
have to constantly hear this message and drive it home for
yep.
myself. This is so powerful. I just have a couple more questions for
Sure.
my interview. Thank you for
Mhm.
allowing me to go inside of your history, your mind,
Yeah,
your soul,
yeah,
your
yeah.
teaching. What is it that the brothers that are watching this,
Hmm.
what would you tell them about how to take care of their peace of mind, their sanity, their
Hmm.
mental health? What
Hmm.
is, do you have any practices that you
Hmm.
do
Hmm.
to center yourself, to bring
Yeah,
yourself back?
yeah. Yeah. For me, everything is mission driven. And for those who aren't in contact with their purpose, I would say that for them to take some real self time, some real alone time, and to look to ask God to connect with their purpose.
Yes,
First of
yes.
all, for them to find a higher power. If you don't have a higher power, you're a boat without a rudder. That's simple. It's cliche. It sounds like something for someone else, but I'll tell you, we each came to this planet with a gift. I have my gift is my voice. My gift is my ability to teach and train. And so my sanity is housed in the things that I know I can do, what I'm here for, a specific
Yes,
reason. I
yes.
connect with God all the time. He leads me, and that's my space I occupy. And I love to work. So I'm a servant in the field, right? And so by giving to so many others, I get that back all the time in opportunities and with people.
You know what I'm hearing, Wes? I'm connecting the dots.
Mm-hmm.
That when our lost young men and women are looking for the next high through
Mm-hmm.
chemical, it's
Mm-hmm.
because they're not getting that natural high,
That's right.
that dopamine
That's right.
that you are
That's right,
getting.
Jewel. That's
You
right.
know that's that hormone
Right.
that that we can access when we
Yes.
are doing what we love and we are serving. So when I
Yes.
see people that are lost and they're
Right.
looking for that next high, that next pair of shoes, that
Right.
next that
Yes.
next game,
That's
you
it.
know, the, the next drink, the next party, is
Yeah.
because they haven't found that thing that wakes them out of the bed
That's it.
without an alarm clock.
That's
I don't even
well,
have an alarm clock.
right. I don't either. And so, but watch what you said, Jewel. Yesterday, I was on my Zoom with LA high school students and TMZ, the
Come on.
entertainment television TMZ were special guests on my Zoom with my kids yesterday, right?
Uh,
And then last week, or well, a few weeks ago, I reached out to a law firm and told them I wanted to do a nonprofit to help young men of color. They said, "Well, we normally charge $20,000, but we'll waive the 20,000 and we'll get your 501c3 started." So they're doing it pro bono, right? I mean, today I've got with Avery Dennison Foundation, we've got a scholarship conversation where they're giving us another $5,000. We can go now match that with 20 other companies for 100,000. So you're right. When you're living within your purpose, that's the high that you get because you're helping so many other people to
yes.
live their dreams too.
I love what Emerson he said. When you do what you love, the universe will give you
Yes,
bread.
yes, yes. You know, God, what God calls for, He provides for.
Yeah,
And when
yeah.
you understand, when you to leave, when we it sounds cliche, Jewel, to leave the earth better off than when you before you came.
That's
But
right.
but we live in people. Every time someone calls Jewel Diamond Taylor or texts you and says, "I just want to say thank you. You probably don't remember me, but my
It
life."
happens all the time.
It happens all the.
Gives me chills.
It gives you,
I'm like,
or
who are you? Where was I? What did I do? What did I
right.
say? Because you're
But
like apple seed, just planting seeds.
so when you think about that, the essence of Jewel Diamond Taylor is living in another human being,
Oh my God.
unbeknownst to you, and that seed that you planted now comes to fruition, and they have to call and say, "I want to tell you what that seed did."
I'm gonna slap you. I'm gonna slap you.
Listen, Jill, I want to tell you what that seed did that you planted and you walked away and lived your life. But this seed grew up in me,
Oh,
and now I want you to see who I've become as a
come
result of
on,
it.
come on. The piece of God in me help to wake up
Yes.
the piece of God in them. Come on.
Like Elizabeth when Mary showed up and the baby and
And the
John
baby
jumps, right?
leaps.
The baby sleeps.
Yeah,
Come on
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this has been so exciting. I knew this was
Yeah.
going to be juicy. I knew it was going to be stimulating. And I love that saying you used to always tell me when I was on your show, shut up and keep talking.
Shut up and keep talking. That's when you know. Look, Jewel. That's when you know you hit the sweet spot, right?
That's
Be,
right. Shut up
be,
there, Wes, but
because
keep talking.
at some point the conversations that we have with people move past the verbal into the living water, right?
Hallelujah.
To when information just rolls out of you and a person receives it in due season, and all of a sudden it resonates with who they are, and they,
Yes.
and all of a sudden now, when you talk about living water, the person who couldn't see says, I see what you're saying. Or the person who couldn't hear says, keep
I hear
talking,
what
I hear what you're saying, right?
you
Or the person who was dead to their possibilities all of a sudden get quickened through the word, and now all of
feel
a sudden they keep talking. I'm standing up with it, right? And so
yes.
that's what we're here to do.
That's so exciting. Well, I didn't really properly introduce you and let my audience know what Wes Hall does for the community. So I want to
Yeah,
close out
yeah,
and I want you to share who
right,
you are, what you're doing in the community, and
yeah,
how my listeners and viewers can
yeah.
contact you. Please do that.
Okay, I am an educational consultant to Los Angeles Unified School District. I co-created the Young Men and Women of Color Initiative for the district. We service about, we have a district of about 650,000 students out here.
Mm,
I
mm.
also do professional development training for the teachers on relationship building, social emotional intelligence, and implicit bias. I work with parents. I do parent involvement training for the parents. And I do student empowerment. I've got something called the Greatness Academy, where I work with students and help them understand how to connect education to their future financial well-being. They can find me online at www.weshall217.com. That's
Mhm.
www.weshall217.com. And all my information is on the website.
All right. And because of this sensitive time that we're in,
Yeah.
would you like to share any inspiration or thought of hope for those that are going? We're not all in the same boat. We're
Mm-hmm.
not all feeling amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's not doesn't have a place of employment, or
Mm-hmm.
some people are living alone, and some people are just overwhelmed with bearing loved ones, or just in a ball of confusion with the anxiety of the uncertainty of these times. What would you say to someone that's going through this pandemic and they don't have the joy, they don't
Mm-hmm.
have hope, they're
Mm-hmm.
just really confused? What
Mm-hmm.
could you share with our viewers, Wes?
Yeah, anxiety means that you're anxious for something. When you're constantly looking outside of yourself, and
Mm-hmm.
you're being impacted by life, find an alone time. Notice that there's 500 channels on the TV. If you're always watching TV, then jump into what's on your iPod, then jump into going around friends, then going always moving.
Yes.
Stop and take a silent moment and find your area of silence every day. And then in that moment, whomever your higher power is, seek your higher power. And they say, ask and you shall receive.
Yes.
Whosoever shall say unto this mountain, be thou removed and be thou cast into the sea, and not doubt in their heart, but believe whatever they say it shall come to pass, you shall have whatsoever you say it. So ask and say it with conviction. Find your affirmation, find the thing that you're going to say, and say it. Even if you don't believe it, be obedient to the words of it, and keep saying it until you believe it, and soon you will see it.
Amen.
Simple. Find your
Yes.
space, find your space. And also, Jewel, when you seek that space, know that space that you're seeking exists, and soon it will seek you as well.
Absolutely. And that is on the inside, not outside.
Yes, not outside, on
It's
the
not,
inside.
it's not in the mall. It's not
Mm-mm.
on the internet.
Yeah,
It's not in the stores. It's inside of you.
yeah.
I am eternally grateful to you. I'm so
Thank you, my
glad that we
sister.
have been connected. I'm
Thank you.
so
Yes,
glad and grateful for what you are doing in our
yes,
community, the seeds that you're planting into these
yes,
young people. That's your
yes.
wheelhouse.
That's
And
it. That's
some
it.
kind of way, I
Right.
need you to find a way that I could be of support,
Yes,
because that's my wheelhouse too, Wes, is
yes,
I teach the emotional intelligence,
yes,
the emotional
yes,
wellness. So
yes.
please put that in your back pocket,
I've got
and
it. Yep.
something that I can do to plug in to be of service.
Yes.
That's what I know I was born to do.
Jewel, and in closing, you have been such an inspiration and way beyond, and I told you this before, and if your listeners haven't heard me say it, I want them to hear it. You have always been that bright, shining light. Just the work that you've been doing, the way before I heard Jewel Diamond Taylor's name 20 years ago in power places. I was just so like, I was early coming up in my motivation, and I'm looking at you like this mountain of a woman is so powerful. So and then to have worked side by side, I'm saying all that to say that this new time, I won't say new time, this time that we're in right now,
Mm-hmm.
where white America is even looking at what the challenges are before us as a community. And there are a lot of companies that are doing a major outlay of capital to rectify some of the challenges that we've had in
Yeah.
our culture. Um,
Yes.
I will definitely be calling on you because we're moving into a national and international organization, and there's a lot of work. And
Mm.
as they say, the workers are few. So I'll be definitely calling on you to do some
Yeah.
work.
It
And
sounds like
yeah,
healing and reconciliation work.
yeah,
Healing, reconciliation.
healing,
Absolutely.
healing, reconciliation, but also the righting of the ship, and also nation building.
Mm.
People don't understand as a culture that we still represent a nation. And so,
Mhm.
in terms of nation building, we're early. We came through the civil rights movement. Now we're into 2020. In terms of nation building, we have to move to become more economically sound
That's
now,
right.
and to control our economics. And so there's a lot that's going on in that conversation, and I'm certainly looking to have some conversations with you about that going forward.
Okay. Thank you, my brother. Be
I,
well
yes, sister.
and
I
go in
appreciate
peace.
you. Yes,
And
sister.
much gratitude for all that you are. And may all that you give
Yes,
return back to you multiplied. May the desires of your heart
yes.
be satisfied.
Glory to
God
God.
bless you and
Thank you,
stay
sister.
alive.
You too. Bye.